Hey guys, so today we're gonna take a look at the Furious Raging set bonus. We're gonna take a look at how it works. I'm gonna show you a build with it, give you some recommendations, and we're gonna see if it's any good. So let's get straight to the point. First thing, we're gonna take a look at exactly how it works. So the way it works is that when you have the skill, if you're on the red scroll and you fight a monster, you're gonna slowly build a Fury meter. And when the Fury is full, if you switch to your blue scroll, you have infinite stamina. And the skill has 3 levels, so on level 1 you get 30 seconds of infinite stamina, level 2 you get 60 seconds, and level 3 you get 90 seconds. Now the time it takes to build up the Fury to full does not change no matter how many points you have in the skill. You need to get 100 points of Fury to have a full Fury state, and you get 1 point every second. So that means when you start the fight, it takes 1:40 to get the Fury at full. Now also, every time you do damage, you get 0.1 point of Fury, and that's every shot. That's not a lot, so that means that even if you do a lot of damage, at most, you'll save maybe 3 to 5 seconds on the Fury buildup. And once your Fury is full, you can switch to the blue scroll to get infinite stamina, like you see me do on the screen, for 30, 60 or 90 seconds, depending on how many points you have in the skill. Now, one good thing to know is that if you switch to the blue scroll before your Fury is full, you do not lose your Fury buildup, which is a good thing. So if you switch to the blue scroll by accident, you can switch back and get back to the level of Fury that you had before switching. And here I have my first complaint about the skill, and you'll see that that's not the last one. The animation for when Fury is full is extremely subtle. It is very difficult to know when the Fury is full, and most of the time you just have to guess. When the Fury is full, you get a burst of gold around your hunter, and it's extremely easy to miss. If you do miss it, the little cloud that comes out of your character is almost exactly the same before and after, so you kinda have to guess if maybe you missed it or not. Let's look at this clip for example. The burst is going to happen when Raging is doing his lasers, and it's almost impossible to see, so let's take a look at it. Did you see it? I'm just gonna replay that and show you when it happens, and I don't blame you if you missed it. Yeah, exactly. So at first, for the first hour, I literally could not figure out when it was ready and when it wasn't. It drove me insane. So I found that the best way to know is actually to have a timer next to me on my phone, and at 1:30 to kind of pay attention to my character to know. That you kind of have to guess. So now that I explained the basics on how the skill works, we're gonna take a look at the build that I'm gonna recommend to you guys. And the first thing you'll notice is that we're actually gonna only use 2 points of the skills. And the reason is that the armor is actually pretty bad. The skill is on the helmet, the gloves, and the legs. But all of these pieces are pretty bad, so if we use all 3 points, it's gonna be very difficult to have a set that does any damage at all. And even with 2 points, you'll see that we're pretty limited in the slots, so the build is not very flexible. So for this build, I'm gonna assume that you have at least a weakness exploit 2 and 3 slots on the charm, and that your weapon has at least a level 2 slot. The reason I'm assuming that your weapon has a level 2 slot is because most of the meta bows have at least 2 slots or more. If your bow is one of the bows that does not have 2 slots, you're gonna have to sacrifice something, and you're gonna have to decide what it is you want to sacrifice. Obviously with this build, you'll do less damage than with the meta build, but that's to be expected with an off meta build. But the damage is very decent, and bow being that strong, you'll still do plenty of damage, so don't worry about that too much. Now about the build itself, we're gonna be using the Scorned Magnum Mallow Waist. It's because it gives you a Mail of Hellfire skill points, and that gives you 15 roll when you're on the red scroll. And you're gonna be on the red scroll a lot, so that helps your damage a little bit. Now if your weapon has more slots, some of the spread bows have level 4 slots, you can fit in more stuff in there, but I wanted to get a reasonable bow with only 2 slots, so that's what I was able to fit in. Also, you may think that since we're gonna have infinite stamina at some point, we can forego all the stamina skills on the armor. I would strongly suggest that you get close to the level of stamina you'd get on a normal armor set. That's because you're still gonna spend most of your time on the red scroll without infinite stamina, so you still want to have your stamina skills. In this build, I put Stamina Surge 2 and Constitution 3, so it's a little bit less than on the meta builds, so that's why I recommend to only put Power Shot on the red scroll and not Absolute Power Shot, so you can save a little bit on the stamina. I think the best way to look at this build is a build that you'll play normally, like any other build, but you just trade a little bit of your damage to have infinite stamina every 90 seconds for a minute. So I would consider the infinite stamina as a bonus. Now I played this build for about 5 to 6 hours to try it out and see how it works. And I think I have a couple recommendations to help you make the most out of this set bonus. One thing that you can do is to keep all of your CC for when your Fury is full. On this clip you can see I kept my traps for when my Fury is full. So when my Fury is full and Tobikadashi is turning afflicted again, I'm putting 2 traps, I'm keeping my KO, my paralysis, everything. So that minute that I get full stamina, I can just DPS all the time without stopping. Also, remember that when you dash dance, it's always going to be more DPS to only do 1 power shot. We usually do the second power shot because it's a lot more stamina friendly, but since we have infinite stamina here, it doesn't really matter. In this clip, I don't really do a good job of showcasing that. It's because I'm trying to get the KO, and 2 power shot does get KO faster. But outside of that, if you're just trying to DPS, only 1 power shot is better. Now, remember also that you don't have to activate your Fury mode as soon as it's available. You can keep it for as long as you want and activate it for when you think it's the best time. For example, on this clip, you see that I kept my Fury mode and I activated it for when Malzeno turned into blood, because it's more dangerous at this time. Also, one more advice before I forget, since you're gonna have a little bit less stamina on your red scroll than on the meta builds, I would strongly suggest that on your cat, you give them the Go Fight Win song, so that the cat can give you extra stamina. It's gonna be very helpful since you have a little bit less stamina than the meta builds. Now I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't think this build is very good and it's not been very fun for me either. Now my main issue with this build is that while infinite stamina sounds very good and very fun for Bo, there's not a ton of opportunity to make a good use of it. A lot of the endgame monsters that are more dangerous, they're not gonna let you just dash around like that freely and do a bunch of damage. You're still gonna have to wait for them to attack you so you can dodge bolt or dodge out of the way. I find that when I had infinite stamina against endgame monsters, I always wanted to dash all the time to make use of that infinite stamina. But if you do that, you're gonna get hit a lot. So I found that even when you have infinite stamina, if the monster is not toppled or CC'd or anything like that, the best way is just to play normally, as you would with the meta builds. So for me, the reason I'm not a huge fan of this build is because when you're on the red scroll, and it's gonna be more than half the time, you have a lesser experience than on the meta builds. You have less damage and you have less stamina. And when you're on the blue scroll, you still have less damage and the extra stamina is fine and it's pretty fun at first, but really there's very few opportunities to actually use it. So would I recommend this build? Not really. I mean, if you're bored and you want to try something new, absolutely go for it. You know, it's fun for a little bit. But at the end of the day, I think the armor is too bad and it takes too long to activate, so it's more of a struggle than anything. For me, at least, that's what I felt like. But I want to know what you guys think. If you missed anything, maybe there's a better way to use it, or if you tried this build and you think the same way as I do. So let me know in the comment and I'll see you next time. See ya.